water.
Lion.
Are we gonna have a Wonder Twins playlist? Maybe. The Wonder Twins have left many an imprint on pop culture, and sometimes in forms other than their own. We recently took a look at the Wonder Twins in their main continuity forms of Zan and Jayna, but I also never said that it would just be them directly. My lack of aggressive pedanticism leaving me open to accusations of forgetting, missing, or just being a general disappointment to all nerd kind. Why? Because I did not mention two characters inspired by the Wonder Twins. But there was a method to my madness, because these two characters went on an interesting and also somewhat wasted journey to also find themselves inside DC Comics. There were versions of them there too. In short, they warranted more than just a sentence, but their own video. Who are these characters who have not mentioned render an entire video null and void? Why, they're Downpour and Shifter. Their characters debuted in the DCAU, that's the DC Animated Universe. This in the series Justice League Unlimited. They debut in the episode Ultimatum, the 9th episode of the first season of Justice League Unlimited, also known as the JLU. It was the sequel to the prior series Justice League, and picked up essentially where that one left off. It was commissioned after it first appeared that the Justice League Starcross was going to be the end of the series, but then Cartoon Network wanted more. This series featured a much larger Justice League roster than its predecessor, which allowed the inclusion of some more obscure heroes and concepts, and some are twisted, warped, or brought in excellent ways. Such is the case with the Ultimen. They are changed to the point where while if one was in the know and familiar with the Super Friends, the homages and callbacks were clear, but if one wasn't, the characters had moved past to such a point where they could also kind of stand on their own and be enjoyed without that prior knowledge. They could stand independent of the characters that preceded them, as potentially adequate replacements. There's a skill to making something like this work, just as there are skills innate to the comic medium itself. And if you're interested in learning some of those skills, you'll be interested in today's sponsor. This video is brought to you by me from the future and the Comic Publishing Institute, who are offering a subscription-based service created by Gamal Hennessy, author of The Business of Independent Comic Book Publishing, focusing around the inner workings of the comic book industry, particularly honing in on the business and legal aspects, the areas that are less sexy, but probably way more important. All the lessons, videos, and weekly Q&A session videos are available on demand for members. They have had such speakers as Zoop CEO Jordan Plotsky and Aftershock publisher Mike Martz. There's been a wide range, I'll put up an image. These lectures and talks, and especially the question and answer periods, can be quite helpful for people who are just either breaking into the comic book industry or even people who've been there for a while and are looking to do something new. Upon sign up, members receive a copy of Hennessy's book. You know I skipped right to the social media section before starting. I'm one of those mad lads who hops around in books. Time for recording, they're gearing up to do a series of classes for project management on comic production. Rates start $20 a month, or you can do a 3-month, 6-month, or yearly subscription. If any of this sounds interesting to you and you want to check it out, I have a discount code that will get you 20% off your membership at any level, from the monthly to the yearly, if you use the code casually2022. Yes, learning, and we're about to learn more about Downpour and Shifter. Now on to the Ultimen. A term one may hear around them is XP, which is a shorthand for exported characters. In order to qualify as an XP, the definition goes as follows. A character from one series who is unambiguously and deliberately based on a character in another older series. A few minor traits such as age or hair color may change, but there's no doubt that they are almost one and the same. As mentioned in the Wonder Twins retrospective, the Super Friends occupies an interesting place inside DC fandom in that it can be something extremely well remembered or missed entirely. So you would have fans for whom the Ultimen were instantly recognizable as glow-ups, and others for whom they would be brand new characters, only for the connection that be made when they went and looked them up, if one did. The Ultimen are introduced in the episode Ultimatum as a team of rival superheroes, and the implication is that they've been active for a little bit. They admire the Justice League, but also have a little bit of sass towards them, claiming they're the newer, better models. Well, except for Long Shadow, but they're all quite keen. Here they start with the callbacks right away with how the Wonder Twins or the Super Friends in general used to talk and preach at the audience.
Finding new sources of fuel for an energy-starved world is truly a worthy endeavor. But in man's quest to better himself, he must respect all of the world's creatures.
They also then feature a modern response to some of that.
He's certainly earnest. I think the word is corny.
The members of the team are Wind Dragon, who is an XP for Samurai, Juice replacing Black Vulcan, Long Shadow as Apache Chief, and of course Downpour and Shifter as Zan and Jayna, the Wonder Twins. Zan and Jayna had the ability to shapeshift after fist bumping and activating their power saying form of, with Jayna then taking on an animal form of some kind and Zan transforming into water of some kind. Although I also saw him transform into an ice giant, I don't know why he didn't do that more often. In the JLU, the twins' look is updated. While they maintain their overall purple costume design, they now appear to bear an albino albino complexion and sport long white ponytails. Their powers have been amplified as well, while Downpour's have. Jayna could always turn into any animal, real, extinct, or mythological. And as Shifter, that remains the same, only now the animals are monochromatic a la Beast Boy. Only hers are white, not green. But Zan got the short end of the stick originally. Downpour has hydrokinesis, so even just as water, has the ability to propel and move, and can also do a water cannon thing. They also no longer need to touch to activate their powers.
Lend them a hand, brother?
Absolutely, sister.
Blood! Sea serpent!
And while they do call out what they're turning into, it's also indicated that they don't need to do that either. That's more there to be a callback so that those in the know can then clue in that they're meant to be the Wonder Twins. Their hero names are now references to their power sets. Now the twins didn't feature much in this episode, as the focus is far more on Long Shadow and somewhat on Wind Dragon. The premise of the episode, or the reveal rather, is that the Ultimen are actually a group of clones. They were created by Cadmus to manufacture a likable, profitable, and controllable superhero team. As an overarching plot of the JLU was that distrust was brewing between the people and the Justice League, some manufactured and some because of the actions that they themselves had taken. The process of creating these clones, however, proves untenable, and they're breaking down. Some of the members are developing new powers at random, which in and of itself is a bit of a callback to the Super Friends, because that would happen just sometimes for an episode. One of the characters would have a new power and then it would just be gone. After learning the truth behind their creation, the team lashes out and ends up confronting the Justice League, with the hilarious moment where Downpour decides that he's gonna go up against Aquaman, King of the Sea. The DCAU was all about trying to make Aquaman as edgy and serious as possible. It was just that time period, so yeah. Redemption for Aquaman? Now in this period, Aquaman wasn't as heavily featured as he had been in the previous series. However, he's here for a very specific reason. And it's not just so we can do this. It's also because all the Justice League members featured in this episode were part of the original Super Friends lineup from when Zan and Jayna debuted. There are also several meta nods throughout the episode, including an evil Wonder Dog. Look at the Wonder Dog. Makes sense. The Wonder Dog in DC Comics would eventually eat and kill Marvin, so tracks. That was one of the things that happened. Fun! Here are some less dark nods.
Kids, you know you two play best of the tweens. Your faces are on the walls of every 12-year-old in America.
I don't know about Shifter, but I'm sick of being a teen idol. There's more to me than just a pretty face.
This is of course a reference as to why the Wonder Twins were created, to be relatable and connect with the youth. There are also some less direct references dealing with the concept of legacy itself.
Then what? We just die and let them replace us? No one ever knows we were here, that we mattered?
Whatever's going on, we'll do everything in our power to...
Yes, power. That's what it always comes down to, doesn't it? And that's the only way we'll ever be remembered.
Now the concept of all these characters together as a rival team works well. The updates to the characters' powers and costumes look good, and it's interesting to see a more serious take on characters who, for those in the know, fans will remember as having far cornier, to quote, Superman origins. However, while one can identify Downpour and Shift as the Wonder Twins, one also should not downplay the significant changes that have occurred to make them into these more credible villain characters. Their personalities are quite different. These aren't the earnest go-getters looking to help out and making mistakes in their haste, but bored teens who, while they rush on, yes, are concerned with materialism, fame, and their connection to each other. Their turn to villains out of frustration and betrayal is not hard to buy, and takes them in a significantly different direction from their originators. The increase in Downpour's powers does highlight one of the concerns that they had back in the day in Hanna-Barbera during the conception phase for Zan and Jayna, and that was that they could potentially become so powerful that they wouldn't have a place on the league itself, that they would just outshine or make you have to restructure the league. The increase in powers does make them work better as antagonists, potentially, or leave them in position to be part of another team, as they are here. Had they not foolishly gone after Aquaman for meta reasons, these two could have given the others quite the run for their money. They feel like they have strong villain potential. The changes required to make them credible threats, as well as the changes to their origin, lead them to a place where they no longer feel like Zan and Jayna, but instead like Downpour and Shifter. With enough appearances, if they had been built upon, those comparisons to their originators may have dwindled. It may have become more of a footnote than the dominant thing that's talked about when they're looked up. There is potential for them to grow into being strong characters in their own right. Now in the DCAU, this didn't happen. After being being subdued and captured and subsequently handed back over to Cadmus and Amanda Waller, the characters would appear, but not these versions. The new Ultimen in later episodes were clearly made up of those replacement clones that you saw in Ultimatum. They were much less autonomous. But that was not the end of Downpour and Shifter. Sorta. At least it wasn't the end of their character designs. For their transfer into DC Comics is also sort of in the form of XPs. They would become a simulacrum. They no longer have the same name, so if one searches them under Downpour and Shifter, one is unlikely to find anything. They pop up in the New 52 at the tail end right before Rebirth. The New 52 in general was all about versions of the Wonder Twins who weren't the Wonder Twins, like what was going on in Justice League 3000. Characters bearing the exact same design as Downpour and Shifter would appear in Superman/Wonder Woman number 26 in 2016, in a story written by Peter J. Tomasi with art by Doug Mankey. They even appear on the covers. The implication is that they will bear some kind of large impact. The cover lies, as so many do. This is a Vandal Savage story from a period where he was gathering resources in a plan to recapture his comet. He had plans to modify it for world domination. He was going to do this with some components from the Fortress of Solitude. The characters appear once more as twins, this time as the children of Vandal Savage. Only here they have a purple skin tone, which is one of the rumored things that the Wonder Twins were supposed to have at one point, but they were not. But they were supposed to have purple hair at one point. Vandal sends its children out to oppose Superman and Wonder Woman when they breach the fortress's security. They are depicted as completely dedicated to their father and even speak in unison. We live to serve you, Father. It's slightly disconcerting. Many of Savage's children are also metas, which is the case with them. But these two don't have the same powers that they did in the animated series. Instead, they can fly and shoot I-beams and appear to have super strength since they hold their own against Superman and Wonder Woman. They're knocked out by issue's end, however, and reappear in the continuation of this story in Superman 49, written by Jean Lun Yang with art by Jack Herbert. Here their powers are supercharged by the comet and appear to have potentially some vestiges of their JLU powers and a little bit of Wonder Twins powers maybe. Because when you see them in the image, both their arms have shifted. One into spiddly, stretchy kind of arms, which could maybe be a nod, as back in the Wonder Twins' early conceptual days, Zan was supposed to have Plastic Man's powers. The other twin appears to have Ice Blade hands, and then they're just instantly defeated by a Metallo-enhanced Superman. And that appears to be that. For shortly after this, DC Rebirth occurred, which was a soft retconning of some of the elements of the New 52, but it left a lot of that canon intact. They're not even named in this appearance. They're just labeled vaguely as Vandal Savage's children, which raises the question of, but why though? They quite clearly have the same design as from the JLU. When Downpour and Shifter appear in the Ultimen, there's a purpose behind it. The entire episode is working through updating those Super Friends characters and finding a way to incorporate them into the DCAU in a unique way that still pays homage to their roots while updating them. The DCAU like to reach back and pull some of these characters forward. In fact, there are many cases where they wanted to do it with more characters but just couldn't because of censorship or other reasons. Their appearance in Ultimatum also set them up with a strong backstory and a cause for villainy. It gave them some potential character traits to explore, both positive and negative. There was a tiny bit of that need to learn in the fact that they still made mistakes. There was that closeness to each other, but there was also that materialism and that kind of seeking of attention. However, there was also the potential for a redemption arc. Their villainy was born more of frustration in the fact that their bodies were breaking down than out of a general maliciousness. There were many ways they could have been introduced in the DC Comics verse, particularly as the Wonder Twins themselves, the Zan and Jayna versions, had yet to be introduced at that time. It could have been a way to introduce more serious versions or homages to those characters, and have them interact with the Justice League without having to force the darker tone, or deal with what some would view as the baggage of their more lighthearted conceptual origins as the Wonder Twins, as they would now be twice removed from it. If one wanted, they could still have been clones created by a shady organization, running around with implanted memories. If you wanted to have some fun with it, you could even make some of the implanted memories some of their original Wonder Twins backstory, or as the Wonder Twins weren't fully in play, one could actually have taken some of the backstories and applied it to them. Maybe do something with that extreme 90s one, where they were rulers deposed on a planet that was now enslaved because of choices they'd made. The designs were solid and clearly liked, as the tweaks and the transference to comic form are minimal. The similarities are too much to be coincidental. It's exactly the same. So it feels very much like a waste. So much effort was put into revamping them for the DCAU, it feels pretty squandered to keep nothing but the look. They could have been so much more than Vandal Savage's throwaway children, and maybe perhaps they were, time of recording. If they reappeared after that, I did not see it. If you did, please tell me, let me know, and then there'll be a threequel, and then there'll definitely be a playlist. You know I like to learn things. This is a journey. I used to say that every video. I need to get back to saying that every video. What do you think of Downpour and Shifter? Do you like them more than the Wonder Twins? How would you have brought them to the DC Comics universe? Or or would you have? Share your thoughts down below. While you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking this day spent discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.